Metal buttons on jeans, also known as rivets, helped make the pockets more durable when miners would fill them with heavy tools. They're still helpful today, even if you don't store anything heavy in your pockets. Rivets strengthen the seams and make your jeans last longer. These tiny ridges on the letters F and J on a keyboard help us find the correct keys while touch typing. Also, since they're located in the center, they indicate the optimum position for typing. By the way, QWERTY was invented back in the early 1870s, and before that, the first keyboards were piano-like, with 2 rows of characters in alphabetical order. Don't blame that little lump on your computer cable for irritating you when it gets stuck somewhere for the umpteenth time. This cylinder, shapes and colors may vary, actually helps prevent interference from other signals, like those your phone emits. A hole in the handle of pots and even frying pans is designed as a holder for spoons if it's large enough. This way, sauce or whatever you stir drops back into the pan, and there's no more mess in the kitchen. As for handles, jerry cans have 3 of them. It's a smart designer move, so when you carry it alone, you use only the central handle to distribute the weight evenly. But your friend wants to help you out. Each of you grabs the side handle. A lack of privacy in public bathrooms, I mean that significant gap beneath where standard doors tend to be, is there for a reason. This way, people do their business faster, and there are fewer lines. Also, if something goes wrong, it's easy to find a person who needs help. In London, some poles kinda look like street lamps, but there are no bulbs. Well, their official name is stink pipes. And they're a thing of the past now, but they used to come in handy back in the 19th century. These hollow poles would take the air and explosive gases with bad smells up to prevent unwanted consequences. Books are printed on large sheets, so one sheet can fit in 4 printed pages. If a book has an odd quantity of printed pages, chances are you'll get a blank one for notes or the author's signature. Toothbrush bristles have 2 secret features. First, they fade over time, so when it gets less bright, you gotta buy a new one. Also, the bristles vary in length, and longer ones on one end can help clean the back teeth better. Toothpaste stripes aren't more than a marketing trick. In the 70s, a leading toothpaste brand introduced a blue stripe, claiming their toothpaste had double action. Solid white toothpaste has the same functions though. Originally, golf balls were smooth. They have a dimpled surface now because players noticed that overused balls with damages flew better than brand new ones. At some point, manufacturers started producing balls with dimples. Windshield black dots, or frits, help dispense the sun glaring right into your eyes. This frame keeps the UV rays away and helps the glass heat up evenly, so it's sort of sunglasses for your car. The tab on the rearview mirror wasn't meant to hold your air freshener. It's a tumbler between day and night mode. It keeps the glare from other cars at bay, so you can't be distracted by headlights behind you. Colored dots on chip bags help manufacturers control the package color and show what ink color was used on the package. No big deal. Your microwave probably has a silence mode. Press 1 or 0 and hold. It might work. Also, there is sometimes a mute button you kept ignoring all this time. Anyway, there are no 2 identical microwaves, so a manual should come in handy. Grocery cart loops help organize all the stuff in your cart better so you can enjoy your supermarket trip. You don't want to put your brand new fancy white jacket in a cart next to carrots and onions, huh? Fruit stickers know everything about your apple's past. A 5-digit number where the first number is 9 is a good sign. It's an organic product. A 4-digit number starting with 3 or 4 means it was conventionally farmed. If the number starts with an 8 and there are 5 digits, it's best to leave it on the shelf. Automatic lip liners and eye pencils have a sharpener installed in the package. The lid on the back part of the pencil doesn't only reveal the color. You can pull it out and sharpen up the product. If you don't feel like peeling an orange, cut it on top and bottom, make a slit on a side, and just pull it open. Toothpicks sometimes have several grooves, and the section with grooves is a makeshift holder. It's easy to break the toothpick into 2 parts. The smaller one with the groove can be used to avoid contact with the table. You can also make a makeshift stand for disposable sushi sticks. They have a sort of lump at one side before you split the pair. break that lump off, and when you want to take a sushi break, just place the stick on this stand. Most tubes are usually sealed with plastic film or foil, and opening it with your fingernails isn't the best idea. A point on the ointment tab easily opens even the most safely sealed tube. A dinner jacket has small pockets above regular ones. They're called ticket pockets, and gentlemen wearing such jackets can quickly pull the tickets before getting on a train. Yeah, you've heard before that a drawer beneath your oven is there for keeping the food warm if the guests are running late. Hey, you can also slow cook on lower temperatures in that drawer. All the bottles used to be of the same green color ones, but it turns out brown ones are way better at blocking UV light. Say no more. A dollar has its secrets too. A large letter with a rim shows which bank is responsible for issuing this bill. 12 different Federal Reserve banks print all the money, so if you want to know where your money comes from, just look for these small codes. A1, Boston. B2, New York. C3, Philadelphia. D4, Cleveland. E5, Richmond. F6, Atlanta. G7, Chicago. H8, St. Louis. I9, Minneapolis. J10, Kansas City. K11, Dallas. 1112, San Francisco. Rough edges on the dimes aren't just about design. The weight of coins made of precious metal was used to show the coin's actual value. People would shave off the edges, spending the shaving coins with the same value, and melt the edges to make new coins. To avoid it, the minter added that pattern so people could tell if a coin was cut. Small dimples on the bottom of some cups keep them in place on wet surfaces, and it doesn't let the excess water accumulate while it's in a dishwasher. To enjoy fresh and soft peanut butter, store it upside down. This way, the oils don't stay on the bottom all the time and distribute evenly in the jar. Bath foam has a sort of thermoregulatory function. The bubbles keep the water hot so that you can enjoy your bath a bit longer. Disclaimer: it works for acrylic bathtubs only. Those made of metal lose heat rather fast, no matter how much foam you make. A doorknob made of brass, bronze, and some copper alloys has an anti-germ effect because of its metal properties. A small V-patch right at the bottom of the collar helps put on the sweater without losing any shape over time because it's made of a double layer of webbing material, just like waistbands and cuffs. To avoid spilling juice right onto your t-shirt, try pouring it from the other side of the carton. This way, it sloshes less, and it's easy to control. Triangular flaps on small juice cartons can help control unwanted spillage too. If you flip them and use them as handles for the carton, you won't press the package, so the juice won't be squeezed uncontrollably. All the disposable cups look the same. The secret here is the special shape that lets you enjoy your drink easily. The top is always wider for the nose to fit in while you're drinking, and the bottom is always narrower so anyone can hold it, even if the hand is small. Also, the width difference allows the cups to stack. You can use a mason jar directly onto the blender with a screw on top and make any shake you want without having to wash the blender jar. The only rule is to not put your device on max. There is no need to tear one of its edges on stick sachets. The right way is to tear them down the middle. You may say it's not a big difference, but at least there's less mess with those torn paper bits. 2 zips for one section can be an excellent pickpocket proof. You can put on a small lock on those zippers and make sure no one but you can open your backpack. If something got stuck in your teeth, it could be hard to have perfect results with loose floss. To increase the tension, tie it in a knot. With increased tension, you'll get rid of that basil between your teeth in no time. A tiny hole on the bottom of a padlock is there to drain water to help avoid corrosion. Plus, it's the most convenient place to lubricate a padlock. A drop of oil in there will make it open and close easier. A tiny plastic disc under a bottle lid is what makes soda sparkling. While the lid keeps the liquid inside, this plastic disc holds the gases inside. Without it, it would just be sweet water. It's a myth that the red side of the eraser is for pencil and the blue one is for ink. The blue one gets rid of mistakes on thicker types of paper only. It works both for pencil and even ink, but make sure the paper is really thick. But that blue little thing can do so much more. It can polish your jewelry, clean your electronics, for example, the screen of your cell phone. You know those irritating sticker residues that won't peel off? Eraser helps there too. So as with cleaning scuffed up suede or dirt you have on your walls. Glass bottles usually have a kind of indent on the bottom called a punt. It's handy for those who pour drinks in the glass. The bottle won't slip from the hands like this. A cotton pads pack has those strings on it to hang on some hook or holder. There is no need to untighten and tighten the pack again. Look at the bottom. It has a perforated line. Tear along it and just pull out a cotton pad from a hanging pack. If you lick a Nintendo cartridge, you'll notice they leave a revolting, sour, bitterish aftertaste in your mouth. They're covered with denatonium benzoate, aka one of the most disgusting flavors. It prevents people from swallowing those cartridges. Bottles have long necks for a reason. Hold the neck, not the bottle if you want to enjoy a cold drink. The same goes for fancy glasses. Their stem saves any drink from overheating. So hold it right. A button on the reverse side of a shirt collar is needed to hold a tie in place. Anyway, slim ties, which this button was designed for, are not that popular today, so this button is only an element of design. All running shoes have an anti-blister system pre-installed. It's the extra hole on top of your sneakers. Make a loop with this hole, inserting the lace in backwards. Cross the laces and insert them into the loops. Then pull the laces down, creating a kind of lock. Some people like to hide the laces under the soles to make them totally invisible. Women's shirts oddly have buttons on the left because some women used to have maids who would help them dress up. It was convenient for maids to button the shirts with the button on the left. Silica gel can often be found in different things you buy, like bags, shoes, and many others. It's meant to absorb excess moisture, so anytime your shoes are a bit wet, just throw in a sachet with silica gel. You are probably using shampoo wrong all the time. Well, the main thing you should know is that you don't apply it directly on your hair. You gotta apply it onto the roots only. The foam that you make is enough to clean your hair. Notebook margins were invented to protect people's notes. People used to co-live with rats, and those rodents nibbled on paper pretty often. Still, they weren't able to gnaw on more than the space left on the margins. Red cups you saw at parties can measure liquids. The bottom line equals 1 ounce, the second line equals 5 ounces, and the third line equals 12 ounces. Detachable headrests in cars are all about safety. If you pull it out of a seat, you'll see 2 pretty sturdy bars. If you ever get locked or trapped in a car, you can get out of there smashing the window with these bars. A little arrow next to the refueling indicator on the car's dashboard indicates which side of the vehicle has fuel tank openings. It's useful when you need to refuel a rented car. Roadside rumble strips come in handy if someone wants to drive at night, since they prevent falling asleep. Whenever a car bumps into these strips, the driver feels vibration and hears quite a loud noise, so the driver can't help but wake up instantly. Rings used to be more than a stylish accessory. The nobility used rings as a seal. Archers wore rings to protect their fingers from bowstring injuries, while needlewomen from needle pricks. As for rings, 3 rings on a phone jack are not part of the design. They represent different functions. If your audio jack has 3 of them, it means your device can produce stereo sound and your earphones have the microphone function. Kings depicted on playing cards are real historical characters. Spades, King David. Clubs, Alexander the Great. Hearts, Charles the Great. Diamonds, Julius Caesar. We tore off Post-it notes incorrectly all this time. If you tear them off from below, they will stick off before long. But if you tear them off on the side, along the sticky line, it will hold on to the wall much longer. A lint roller is good at removing those tiny fibers, but you can also use it to clean other stuff. For example, when you want to remove the dirt from the utensil tray in your dishwasher. Simply take your sticky lint roller and put it into each compartment, and all crumbs, dirt, and leftovers, they're all gone. There's a number put on the side of many cosmetic products. It isn't picked randomly. It tells you how long your product will last after you've opened it. Here's why it has an open jar for a graphic symbol. If you prefer to buy the milk in those plastic containers, you've probably seen those big circles on the side. These circles absorb the shock if you drop the milk on the floor, and also give some extra room so the container can expand. That's how you can see if the milk's turned bad without tasting it. It's sometimes irritating when you see you haven't used the entire stick of deodorant. There's a little bit more left, but it's hard to reach it. Okay, the trick is easy. Unscrew the bottom, take a pencil, and force it underneath that moving platform. That way, you'll push what's left of deodorant out. 2 flat prongs you can see on standard plugs used in North and Central America make sense. But how about those holes near the tips? Thanks to them, the outlet firmly grips the plug so that it won't loosen or fall out of the socket. The second thing about the holes is that they allow you to wire electric power directly to the prongs, so you don't even have to use classical electrical outlets. So, if you need to get electrical power via direct wires, yep, the holes we got over there make the entire job much easier. Airplane windows have little holes too, and they're one of the essential features for a plane to fly safely. They protect people from outside pressure and generally balance the pressure on the windows when the plane takes off. Okay, I know it's kind of cold to the touch, especially on a freezing winter's day, but did you know that brass doorknobs actually serve a purpose apart from looking classy and shiny? Since it's a copper alloy, brass has antimicrobial properties. That means it can help get rid of harmful germs and bacteria, sometimes in up to 2 hours. In high-traffic areas, that's all the more useful, but since brass is much costlier than other metals like nickel and steel, you barely see these types of doorknobs anymore nowadays. Speaking of lovely multi-purpose items, most screwdrivers have a tiny little secret of their own. They can sometimes be slid through a wrench so that they can be used to create more torque when twisting, not to mention the uses when it comes to bolts in hard-to-reach places. There's a reason why buttons on women's shirts are for the left-handed, and it has nothing to do with fashion. This practice dates back to the times when chambermaids were helping ladies dress themselves, and it was easier for them to perform their job with this orientation. Having the buttons placed as such indicated a sign of wealth, so it's easy to imagine why the practice carried on, even though most people dress themselves nowadays. Next time you receive a package in your mail, take a look at your box cutter. If it features some diagonal lines on the blade, you're in for a little design perk. Turns out that these are blades that snap off. Continuously cutting cardboard can dull the sharp edge of the blade. To help prevent the need to buy a brand new box cutter, the top segment along the next line can be broken off to reach a new sharp edge. To do this, check out the small hole at the base of the tool, sometimes called the blade snapper. The people that first came up with this brilliant invention were engineers inspired by the way chocolate bars are segmented. Hold on a minute, don't throw away the cardboard package just yet. Most likely, you'll have some silica gel packets somewhere at the bottom of the box. Since this gel is basically a drying tool, it gathers up the moisture out of its environment, so you can store these packets for further occasions. Whether you'll need to dry out your phone or some other electrical object, you can place them in a container next to the silica gel to reduce the damage. You don't have to be a mechanic to know when a standard car tire needs replacing, since they come equipped with a neat indicator. Take a closer look, and you'll see that treads within the tire are a bunch of rubber notches. When the treads are evened out with the perpendicular bars, it's a sign you need to book an appointment with your local car service, since most likely the tires have lost most of their traction and may not be safe for driving any longer. The upper corners of a car windshield feature textured black dots melted into the glass edges. This neat add-on isn't there for design purposes. It's called frit glazing, which means that a special type of ceramic paint is added to the window for protecting its sealant from UV rays. It also conceals and creates a coarser surface for the adhesive used to set the window in place. Whenever you're up for a drive, check out if there's a small tab under your car's rear-view mirror. Bet you didn't know it's there to help switch the mirror from daytime to nighttime views. It uses a prismatic glass technology to blur the reflection and reduce the glare of headlights behind you in traffic. People came up with these manually tilted mirrors in the 1930s, but they became standard somewhere in the 1970s. While you're in the car, check out the headrests, as you most likely don't know that they carry a little disguised purpose. Of course, they're adjustable to accommodate passengers of any height so that they get the proper support for their heads and necks. The hidden feature is that they are detachable and come with two very solid metal bars. Should you ever find yourself stuck in a car and need to make a fast getaway, these bars come in handy to crack out the car windows. So you're out for a drive and you're suddenly out of gas. What I'm about to describe sounds more like a meme than an actual situation bound to happen. But what if you're in such a hurry that you accidentally drive off with the gas nozzle still in the tank? Well, the nozzles have been designed to prevent any hazards from happening, rest assured. They feature a breakaway device that will allow the hose to separate when taken out with enough force. Initially designed in the early 20th century to be worn exclusively by basketball players, sneakers soon became one of those fashion fundamentals, similar to jeans and leather jackets. If you take a closer look at them, you'll see they have two extra holes on the side, similar to the shoelace holes. They're manufactured as such not only to provide extra ventilation, but to allow people to get extra creative with their laces when wearing the shoes. Admit it, you've always thought that chopsticks are merged at the end for the sole purpose of keeping them together until you're ready to dig into your meal. That may or may not be the whole truth. Under a more detailed inspection, the wooden tools feature a square-shaped end. Chopsticks manufactured like this date back to an old Japanese traditional design, which can help with breaking the ends easily. The separated end can then be used as a resting block for the chopsticks to keep it more sanitized in hopes it can be used again, since they won't be touching the table or any other surface. Women's bikes have a special design which, surprisingly, has a historical and fashionable purpose. The lower frame is for the most part meant to make up for the generally shorter height of ladies, compared to that of the average gentleman. While that is the case for handlebars and saddles, the overall frame is lower for an additional purpose. Way back when women wore long skirts and dresses all day, every day they needed to make sure their outfits wouldn't get caught in the frame. That's how we came up with a lower-framed bicycle, perfectly made for women and their needs at the time. The fact that toothpastes are multicolored is not just a nice perk to make dental hygiene more fun. There's a secret meaning related to each of the colors, which dates back to the 1970s. In those days, people grew more and more interested in their oral health care, and as such, they were looking for products which could do more than merely clean their teeth. One company was the pioneer in that regard, adding mouthwash to its toothpaste, meaning the blue strip. They later added on the red strip, meant to feature ingredients which helped with gum care. Speaking of toothpaste, check the cap next time you open a new tube. You may be in for a little surprise. There's a pointed cone shape inside the cap, so you can puncture the seal of the toothpaste without cutting yourself or ruining your manicure. Not to mention, it's more hygienic since you won't be able to transfer germs or other bacteria into the product itself. On the subject of bathroom countertop items, toothbrushes come with a neat add-on hidden in the bristle patterns. Apart from making the toothbrush look cooler, they also do come with a practical purpose. Most toothbrushes come with a pattern of blue bristles intertwined with white ones. The blue dye is meant to fade out, signaling the time when you need to replace your toothbrush. Dentists say that toothbrushes should be replaced every 3 to 4 months, but it does serve as a great reminder in case you forget. Still love playing with Lego? Don't judge. Hey, it's a great hobby for all ages. Notice there's a hole on top of the Lego heads? Behold, you're looking at a safety feature that the people at Lego designed to prevent choking hazards.
Seatbelt on the passenger seats has a fabric loop. When put under a great amount of pressure, the stitches on the loop rip apart, so the excess fabric can assist in cushioning the passengers. The extra few inches can make a great difference within a dire circumstance. However, there isn't one on the driver's side. As the driver is so close to the steering wheel, it's safer for them not to have one. Seatbelts were originally invented in the mid-19th century, though this technology wasn't brought into common practice until the 1960s. Pre-collision sensory technology has assisted with developing the safety of seatbelts and other features to the next level. Effectively predicting a car's collision, the technology directs the seatbelts to automatically tighten, aligning the airbags and ensuring the brakes will be preloaded to reduce shock. Every year, 6 million car accidents occur, which explains why all cars still must continue to develop safety features, not only to alleviate accidents, but to protect people more effectively within their cars. The materials that make up the body of cars only started getting replaced within the last 25 years, ranging from aluminum and magnesium alloys to carbon fiber composites. These lighter materials not only enable a more fuel-efficient journey, but they also ensure that when a car is in an accident, its build provides a crumple zone. As a car hits another object, the crumple zone absorbs energy from the collision. Although this would appear to cause more damage to the car, it helps prevent impact on the passengers. Front and rear bumpers are very underrated, and due to their long history of being used in cars, you can't imagine a time we didn't use them. They were invented in the late 1800s. The bumpers evolved over the years to the point we don't even realize we have them. But they're there, quietly waiting under the outer covers, consisting of compressible foam or plastic around a rigid reinforced bar. All the windows of your car are made of glass, but the windshield is made of a shatterproof version. It's laminated, so whatever might hit it, you can be sure there won't be any shards of glass falling into the front seats. Normal glass was used up until the 1950s. As vehicles became more prominent, they made modifications to ensure safety. Airbags seem like another common feature that has always been there. In fact, they were originally invented in 1968 and were ahead of their time. They slowly gained popularity, and through safety precautions for cars, they eventually became mandatory for all cars to have, only in 1998. They have since developed from just being an airbag within the steering wheel. Today, depending on the vehicle, they can be located throughout the car, ensuring all potential passengers will be protected. Crash sensors connected to an onboard computer detect when a collision occurs and trigger the bags, inflating within milliseconds and providing a cushioned safety within a blink of an eye. It can be difficult to predict the weather, and even more so to determine traction on the road. In the late 1960s, anti-lock braking systems, ABS, were implemented in vehicles. Before that, they had been used in many aircraft, with designs going as far back as 1908. They soon became a necessity for all vehicles, ensuring traction is maintained on slippery surfaces and that there is complete control when braking. Today, ABS has advanced so much that the latest variations ensure further detection when there are strong crosswinds. Cruise control, initially invented in 1948, has been in constant development over many decades. Today, adaptive cruise control ensures that when the car is cruising at a constant speed and detects a slower car ahead, it will then adjust the speed to match the car in front. Other advanced variants may also ensure the car will make a complete stop once identifying that the car in front has done the same. It's easy to forget to have your high beams on when driving on the long and lonesome road for many hours. Automatic high beams are quickly becoming more common. High-tech camera modules can easily determine what type of light is passing through and help ensure when the high beam will be necessary. Although versions of automatic high beams have been around since the 1950s, they counted on light-sensitive sensors and were very unreliable. The new varieties can identify the sources of light, whether it's from the sun, directly from a car's light, or even from the reflection on a sign, ensuring you won't cause issues with other drivers. It's a pain in the neck to have to ensure there isn't anyone creeping into that semi-visible corner, the blind spot, which causes around 400,000 accidents per year. Solar sensors within rear bumpers of vehicles and blind spot monitoring systems watch and identify adjacent lanes. They alert the driver that a vehicle may be in the lane beside them, whether by flashing lights on the dash or from beeping sounds. This way, they help to alleviate the many concerns the blind spot causes. 1.6 million road accidents are caused by texting and driving, and fatigue normally causes up to 10% of all car accidents per year. The Driver Attention Monitor helps to alleviate both statistics. It works through sensors that monitor the car's movements and the amount of steering corrections to ensure the driver is paying attention to the road. When the system identifies that the driver isn't completely awake or is slightly distracted with their phone, it will prompt signals to suggest it's time for a break. Tires are among the most critical components for your car, with a close relationship with whatever path you take. Many safety features rely on the tires themselves for their own independent purposes. That's why it's super important to ensure the tires are always in top condition. Tire pressure monitoring systems check the air pressure of all 4 tires, ensuring you're aware when they need their pressure increased to avoid the risk of a blowout. The constant evolution in technologies continues to ensure you stay safe on longer stretches of the road. Lane departure warnings focus on the lines on the road, ensuring the car stays within. Whenever a car starts drifting over a line in the road without signaling to do so, the camera-based feature identifies and signals to the driver. The lane keeping assist feature follows the same method of identifying when the car is intruding the bordering lane. When it gets too close, it will readjust the steering and center the car within its appropriate lane. Other features in more advanced cars have autonomous driving capabilities. The autopilot systems have taken cruise control to the next level. Not only does it allow the vehicle to steer itself in the intended lane while maintaining a set speed, but it also changes lanes when required, making the ride more and more efficient. Some safety features are only just making a trend in car models worldwide. For example, night vision using thermographic cameras to look out for pedestrians and animals nearby. It goes within the infotainment screen, facing frontwards and identifying objects from their heat signatures. It's estimated that there are over 1.4 billion cars in use worldwide, and as the world's population increases, it's expected that the number of cars will follow suit. Safety features will continue to adapt further beyond what we know of today. Infrared headlights will be further adapted to be used in conditions with poor visibility, like storms, snow, and fog.
Looking for a lost earring or pin on the floor? Place a stocking over the end of your vacuum and move it over the floor. The small object will get picked up without getting vacuumed. It helps to turn the vacuum on while attempting this. Candle wax that's been spilled on furniture can be removed with ice cubes. Rather than ruining the finish by trying to scrape it off, fill a plastic bag with ice and let it sit on the wax for a few minutes. The wax will then cool and harden, making it much easier to pick off. Crayon marks on the walls are a parent's worst nightmare, but you can use a hairdryer to get them off. Heat the marks for just a few seconds to soften the wax, and then you should be able to just wipe it away. You can use hair conditioner to make that new wool sweater less itchy. Just soak it in lukewarm water with a couple of tablespoons of conditioner and leave it for 15 minutes. Then just dry it and your sweater will be much softer. That layer of bubbles that forms when you add bubble bath to your tub isn't just for fun. The bubbly layer also acts as insulation and keeps your bath warmer for longer. Next time you're getting ready for work, take a closer look at your go-to shirt. Every buttonhole is stitched vertically, but check out the very last hole. It's stitched horizontally, right? This is because the bottom part of your shirt endures the most stress from pulling, as it's where your hips are. So that horizontal buttonhole isn't a mistake. It's put there to stop your shirt ripping as your hips move. Hey, those hips don't lie. That random diamond on your backpack is called a lash tab or pig snout. It's there so you can thread cords through the holes to carry extra gear. Perfect for camping or long hikes. If you put your Chinese takeout on a plate when it arrives, you're doing more work than you should. Much like the paper condiment pots in fast food restaurants, your cardboard Chinese takeout box can be unfolded to create the perfect sized plate for your food. That hole in your hollow lollipop stick isn't to prevent choking should it ever be swallowed. It's actually there to keep the candy in place. Excess candy flows into the hollow tube and the hole, which, when it hardens, keeps the pop in place. If it was a smooth stick, the candy would slide off easily. Some skyscrapers have hollow floors that contain nothing but an elevator and some complex machinery. They're called technical floors, and developers say they're there to maintain the building's proper functioning. But it's also a way to get around height limits. Some skyscrapers are given a limit to the number of floors they can have. Because the technical floors are non-residential, they add to the height of the building and make it look more impressive without increasing the number of floors and breaking the building contract. These floors can also help to prevent the spread of fires. If you look closely at an elevator door, you'll notice a tiny hole. This is actually a keyhole used for emergencies or for routine maintenance checks. If you get stuck in an elevator, the technician will be able to get you out of there by using their master key. Salt isn't just used for cooking. It can get rid of tough smells, like this. Whew! Rubbing salt on your fingertips after chopping garlic should remove the smell. It also works on shoes. Toasters have a secret slide in the bottom that can be removed so you can clean out all those annoying breadcrumbs. Now, take a look at your laptop keyboard. There are bumps on the F and J keys, but nowhere else. When your fingers are in the optimal typing position, your index finger should rest on these two keys. The bumps have been added so that you can correctly position your hands for typing without looking at your keyboard. Washing your clothes on a low heat or even better, a cold wash, will make them last twice as long. Drying them on a line, if possible, will also make the material last longer than if you used a dryer. The less you wash them, the less they'll fade and shrink over time. It'll also save you on your energy bills. Blank pages in the books aren't actually made for the author's signature. It's all about the manufacturing process. Books are printed on large sheets, so one sheet can fit 4 printed pages. If a book has an odd quantity of printed pages, chances are you'll get a blank one for notes. Tree cart loops have more functions than you think. You don't want to put your fancy white jacket in a cart next to carrots and Coke. This little hook-like thingy helps organize all the stuff in your cart better, so you can enjoy your shopping trip. Works for me. A good doorknob is one made of brass, bronze, or some copper alloys. These metals have an anti-germ effect. Bacteria spread way slower on them. They also get rid of germs pretty fast, within a couple of hours. There's only one way you can store your peanut butter right. If you place it the regular way, it may get a bit solid before long. The trick is to store it upside down, so the oils don't stay on the bottom all the time and distribute evenly. My dog loves peanut butter. How about yours? Whatever coffee shop you go to, all the disposable cups look exactly the same, only the logo changes. The secret here is the special shape that lets you enjoy your drink easily. The top is always wider, which allows it to accommodate your nose while you're drinking, and the bottom is always narrower, so that anyone can hold it easier, even if the hand is quite small. This width difference also allows the cups to stack. Spoiled milk emits gases, like most foods when they go bad, or me. A classic plastic milk jug has a concave shape on one side, so when the gases expand inside the jug, it expands too, and the concave shape curves out. Also, if you want to save some milk for later and freeze it, the jug will expand when the milk gets solid as well, occupying more space in a jug. Almost all measuring tapes have a metal tip with a small slot on the end. You can use this slot to hang the tape on a nail or a screw to make measurements without anyone's help. Sometimes this tip has a row of sharp points along the edge on one side. It comes in handy when you want to leave a mark without using a pencil. If you've ever tried a Nintendo cartridge to taste, you'll confirm that they taste revolting, leaving a sour, bitterish aftertaste in your mouth. Well, we tried to tell you. They're covered with denatonium benzoate, one of the most disgusting flavors known. Not normally seen in ice cream stores either. Actually, this taste has a righteous function. It prevents people from swallowing those cartridges. Rough edges on the dimes aren't just about design. The coins used to be made of precious metals to show their real value. People would shave off the edges, spending the shaven coins with the same value and melt the edges to new coins. To avoid it, minters added that pattern so people could tell if someone cut that coin before. A triple handle on a jerry can is there to make it easier for 2 people to carry it and distribute the fuel evenly. Lemons get juicier if you warm them up a little bit in the microwave. The heat softens the frozen membranes, so the juice can flow out freely. The result? More lemonade for you. The expiration date on mineral water isn't about water going bad. Actually, no water can spoil, but the bottle can. Over time, it starts leaking some chemicals that aren't quite safe. Okay, here's a science project to try. Tonic water can be fluorescent in UV black light. It contains quinine, which makes it both bitter and glowing. The color of plates and cups can affect your food perception. A group of 57 volunteers drank hot chocolate out of different cups, but most people claim the orange cup hot chocolate was the best. Red color plates are cool for those on a diet. It looks alarming, so you end up eating less. Have you ever noticed that at the bottom of a measuring tape there is a little dip? You can find it in that metallic part you need to pull on to measure something. Well, that dip is actually the exact size of a regular nail. It was designed for people to place the tape on top of a nail and use it as a support while they stretch the tape. Well, I can't wait to try it out for myself. As for the margins in your notebook, they were invented to protect people's notes from mice. No, the mice weren't copying your answers for the math quiz. Actually, there were times when people had to cohabitate with rats and mice that often chewed on paper. So, to prevent information from getting completely lost, people created margins. This way, texts were moved closer to the middle of pages and remained unharmed by rodents. Perhaps this is where to digest information came from. And what about those tiny holes at the bottom of airplane windows? They have an extremely important function of regulating the air pressure inside the cabin. In other words, they help planes fly high up in the sky. Big responsibility, right? By the way, tray tables on an airplane are the germiest places inside the entire cabin. Studies showed that the trays had 8 times the amount of germs on the toilet flush button. Now, how about we cut a commercial airplane in half and see what's inside? Well, it would look more or less like this. Rows of seats on top and everything else that needs to be stored at the bottom. I'm talking about passengers' luggage, emergency supplies, parts of the wing system, and so on. Moving on to bowling balls. Yes, I know it's a clumsy transition. Anyway, have you ever wondered what the insides of a bowling ball look like? If you have cut a professional ball in two, you'll see a familiar shape. Look closely. Do you see it? Doesn't that look like the logo of Brightside? Anyway, professional bowling balls are different from the ones in your local bowling alley. That's because they're designed to make fancy moves. They actually have some really complex engineering inside. They're shaped to help skilled professionals get more strikes. The weight of professional bowling balls is designed to be projected inward as they travel down the bowling lane. This makes it harder for them to get into the gutters on the sides of the lane. Speaking of balls, let's take a look inside a baseball. To make it light and aerodynamic, producers use several different layers. Starting from the core, we have a cork center enveloped by black rubber. Then there's a layer of red rubber, followed by 2 or 3 alternating layers of wool yarn. After that, there's a visible white leather cover and that beautiful red seam on the side, stitching it all together. And what if you had X-ray vision and managed to look inside a human bone? Ooh, spooky! I'd say what calls most attention is this spiderweb-like situation at the center of the bone. In reality, it's a highly condensed and complex structure of nerves that you have inside your bones. Aren't you lucky? Now, I've got a riddle for you. What is round, can be found near the ocean, and looks like an aerial view of the Guggenheim Museum in New York City, the one that's made almost entirely of ramps? If you said a nautilus shell, hey, then you guessed right. A nautilus is a shellfish whose house you can find in countless souvenir stores near the beach. It's made up of 2 layers, a matte white outer layer and an iridescent white inner layer. And if you were to cut it in half, it would look very similar to the insides of the Guggenheim Museum. Aloe leaves are good for healing purposes and also for hydration. But if you managed to look inside of an aloe leaf, the image you'd see would be satisfying and very relaxing. Who hasn't dreamed of a pool filled with jelly? Now, there seems to be nothing more mundane and regular than a tube of toothpaste. But you wouldn't think so if you cut open a tube that contains several colors. Now, there have been speculations that the insides of such a toothpaste tube might be divided by barriers so that the stripes don't mix. But if you cut it in half, you'll see that it has only one interior chamber. As it happens, there's a lot of science behind the making of striped toothpaste. According to a specialist, they have to ensure that the paste in all the stripes has the same physical properties. This way, the colors are naturally prevented from mixing with one another. That's why, if you tear a tube open, you'll see something that looks like several slices of pizza in different colors. If you open your closet, you're bound to find at least a few wooden hangers. Usually, they're made of cedar wood, which is a natural moth repellent. So, cedar hangers actually protect your clothes from moth infestation. For some people, more than others, eyeliner is an everyday must. Boy, isn't it. But did you know that back in ancient Egyptian times, both men and women used kohl eyeliners to protect their eyes from the sun's glare? Way to go for the Egyptians for figuring that out. Now, if I could just learn to walk like one. Normally, we use headrests for the purpose of, well, resting our heads, right? Well, not only. As it turns out, headrests can be easily removed from the seats and used to break car windows in case of emergencies. Now, this one is a trick very few people know about. You probably place your doormat horizontally, like most of us do. But doormats serve the purpose of absorbing dirt from the soles of your shoes before you enter your home. So, for this function to work as it's meant to, the best way to place a doormat is vertically. This way, you take more steps on the top of the doormat before entering your house. And last but not least, now I don't want to be accusatory here, but you have probably been vacuuming your house the wrong way, and I can prove it. Most people just vacuum floors and carpets in one direction or move the brush back and forth several times, thinking they've got all the dust out. But according to cleaning professionals, the best way to vacuum is in rows. First, you go forward with the brush until you arrive at the end of the row. Then, you fluff the carpet up and move back down along the same row, gathering the dust that wasn't collected in the first sweep. Talk about efficient cleaning. On the other hand, my idea of house cleaning is to sweep the room with a glance. Hey, I don't want to disturb that protective layer of dust. That weird little hole at the top of a lollipop stick you can see after finishing a candy is not a whistle. It has something to do with the manufacturing process. When pouring hot molten caramel into a mold, some of it will seep into this mysterious hole and harden. This way, the candy will stay on the stick and won't fall off. Keyboard letters aren't just randomly arranged the way they are. The first keyboard ever made belonged to the typewriter. Typists eventually got so good at their job, they started typing too quickly. So the key arms would get cross-wired at some point and stuck. That's why manufacturers had to make the order of keys more random to intentionally slow down typists so they could keep the machine running. Do you like to let those brushes on the side of the escalators in malls polish your shoes? Believe it or not, that's not their main gig. The bristles are there for safety. People used to get their bags and clothes stuck in those escalators when they would stand too close to the sides. These nylon bristles kind of play with people's minds, and they keep their feet away from the escalator skirt panels and avoid accidents. Most people assume bobby pins have curves for fashion, which is why they mostly place it in their hair with the wavy side up. But those little waves are actually there to catch the underlying bulk of hair and grip the pin into place. So the wavy side should go down. You've probably noticed measuring tapes mostly come with a metal stub that ends with a small slot. If your hands are full of stuff, simply hang the slot on a nail for measurement. If you take a closer look, you'll see the stub is a little bit serrated on one side. This means you can use it to mark the points, so you don't even need a pencil. If you spend a lot of time in planes, you've probably noticed that little hole located at the bottom of the window. Nothing to be nervous about. It's what keeps us safe while flying high. It's something called a bleed hole. You can see right there in the middle of the pane of the 3 window panes that actually protect passengers from the outside pressure. This hole may be tiny, but it takes all that pressure off the outer one. The hole also gradually exposes it to cabin pressure, which helps with fixing pressure imbalances on the windows, if there are any. There's a number 57 staring at you from the middle of the Heinz ketchup bottle forever. According to the company, only 11% of people are aware the number really has nothing to do with the product label. It's actually a sweet spot where you can tap to get the sauce onto the plate. So, next time you want some ketchup, there's no need to bang the bottom off. Just hit this spot. Grooves on the bottom of cups are there to make cleaning them in the dishwasher more convenient. When you place your cups upside down, these grooves will allow the water to flow rather than stagnate. This way, the water won't spill onto your feet when you take the cups out. The grooves are there to allow cool air to flow beneath the cup too. They also keep cups from cracking when they heat up after you pour hot beverages in. You probably noticed that little dot next to the camera on an iPhone and probably thought it was a flash. Nope, not a flash, but a microphone in charge of catching sounds when you're using the back camera. Next time you're looking for a quick bite and decide for fries at McDonald's, check that bendable flap near the top of the box. Some like to bend it towards the fries. That way, you can cover your fries up and keep them warm. But if you're not that patient, you can flip the flap backward and basically turn it into a makeshift plate for your fries. Just bend it down firmly enough. You don't want it to spring back up and spread the sauce all over you. Take it from me, it's messy. In the 1970s, people didn't want toothpaste just to keep their mouths healthy, but also to freshen their breath. Aquafresh decided to answer that call, so they added a blue stripe to their product. Since consumers started paying more attention to their teeth and gums, the company added a third red stripe to their paste. The paste now has 3 functions: freshening, cleaning, and plaque control. And yes, solid white toothpaste can offer the same benefits, but brands continue to add stripes to their paste anyway. Speaking of toothpaste, do you know those colors on the bottom of tubes? The colors don't mean anything in particular. They're there to help in the manufacturing by telling light sensors where the end of the tube is. Thanks to it, the machine can cut and seal the tube properly. Hand sanitizers are commonplace nowadays, and you can apply them in many other ways besides just cleaning your hands. It also works great when you want to remove stains from your clothes. Sanitizer breaks up oily, greasy spillages and does a great job as a degreaser. You can even use it as a deodorant if you get caught out on a hot day. If you're not at your computer, take a look at your keyboard right now. If you're not, that's okay. Here's one on the screen. The keycaps are arranged in what's called the QWERTY layout, named after the first 6 keycaps below the numbers. As it turns out, it wasn't always this way. They used to be laid out alphabetically, which would make more sense when you think about it. The alphabetical layout fell out of use because long ago there were things called typewriters. Remember those? You press down a key and a type bar would fly out, hitting an inked ribbon and stamping a letter on the piece of paper. Eventually, typists got good at this and typed faster. Too fast. The type bars would eventually get caught in a log jam with each other, ruining the flow. To fix this problem, they made keyboards with randomized keycaps. The new layout actually worked better because it made typing harder, helping to slow typists down and prevent the type bars from getting stuck. Much better. Today, no type bars, no typewriters, mostly. People are still fast nowadays, but you just can't help but wonder who is faster though, us or them. Keyboards have another hidden feature too. Have you ever noticed that the F keycap and the J keycap have little bumps on the bottom of them? As it turns out, they're there to help people figure out where they are on the keyboard without having to take their eyes off the screen. Grabbing a takeaway cup of coffee at your favorite cafe might be just what you need to fully wake up in the mornings. When you get back home or to work, though, you might be afraid to stain your desk when you put the steaming hot coffee down. Worry not, your plastic lid isn't only good for keeping your coffee hot, it also doubles as a coaster. In fact, they're the perfect size to hold a cup. Try it for yourself. This one's going to come in handy if you're a home cook. If you're like me, you might have a bit of trouble deciding how much pasta you need for just one serving. Well, if you've got a pasta scoop, grab that. Most people don't know what the little hole in the middle is for and assume it's supposed to help with water drainage or something. It turns out that it helps you measure out a perfect serving. Just see how much dry spaghetti you can fit in the hole and use that as one portion. Out of the store buying coat hangers, you might notice that the plastic ones feel cheaper than the wooden ones. There's a good reason for this. Wooden hangers are made out of cedar wood. The big difference between the two is that the wooden ones repel bugs and moths. They're stronger and last longer too, perfect for things that might stay in your closet for a long time. When you brush your teeth, you might have noticed that your toothbrush has blue bristles. They're not just there for show. In fact, they're there to tell you when it might be time to switch toothbrushes. These bristles lose their strength and color when the brush has been worn down, letting you know that it's time to get rid of it. Microwaves often look a bit like mini TVs, especially ones where you can clearly see the black film around them. This is actually a really important feature that's used to keep the radiation from slipping away. They're called Faraday cages, if you want to get technical. This is why you can stand next to a microwave without melting into a puddle. That's not to say you should stand in front of the microwave and watch your food heat up, but at least you know you won't grow an extra ear or something. Okay, not really. Some ovens have a drawer under them. It's tempting to use this to store random junk you don't use often, but there's a better use for it. Instead, this should be used to help keep the food that's waiting to be served hot. You can take it out of the oven and store it right in this drawer, keeping your oven free for you to carry on cooking. Now, you're on a plane looking around trying to pass the time before takeoff. When you examine the window, you notice it has a little, very tiny hole on its bottom. Don't worry, it's not broken. It's there to relieve the pressure that builds up over time as the plane goes up and down. It also lets the air flow through it. Now, raise your hand if you've ever ridden on an escalator and scrubbed your shoes on its bristles. Hey, I'm guilty of doing that, maybe more than I should. It's not there to clean your shoes, though. It's an important safety measure. It stops your shoelaces, clothing, and other stuff from getting stuck in there, avoiding a nasty scene when you go to get off. Sometimes a piece of fabric comes with your new clothing. It usually comes along with the extra buttons in a little plastic bag. You might think it's just a piece of fabric to use for future patching, in case you rip it. But that isn't its purpose at all. It's actually supposed to be put in the washing machine to test how it reacts to various washings. Now, you don't have to worry about shrinking your new expensive coat because you know how it'll react to the wash. Bubbles! Who doesn't love bubbles? Most people have fond memories with bubble blowers as a kid. But as adults, the closest thing we can get to recapturing that feeling is with bubble baths. After a hard day at work, there's nothing better than dipping into a nice warm bubble bath. Right, guys? And the bubbles do more than just clean you. If they're high-quality bubbles, they'll serve as a heat insulator. So they make sure that your bath stays warm for longer. Next time you're getting ready for work, take a closer look at your go-to shirt. Every buttonhole is stitched vertically, but check out the very last hole. It's stitched horizontally, right? This is because the bottom part of your shirt endures the most stress from pulling, as it's where your hips are. So that horizontal buttonhole isn't a mistake. It's put there to stop your shirt ripping as your hips move. That layer of bubbles that forms when you add bubble bath to your tub isn't just for fun. The bubbly layer also acts as insulation and keeps your bath warmer for longer. The pom-pom on top of your beanie wasn't put there as a fashion accessory. The pom-pom was originally added to the hat to prevent sailors banging their heads on the ceilings of the ships that were too low. Crackers have holes in them to stop them cracking and breaking during baking. If the holes weren't there, steam would build up inside the cracker and make it collapse. Those numbers on stickers they put on oranges aren't random. If there are 4 digits and the first is 3 or 4, this means the fruit has been made with conventional farming techniques. 5 numbers beginning with an 8 means the fruit has been genetically modified. 5 numbers beginning with a 9 means the fruit is organic. Margins on paper aren't for writing in dates and numbering lists. They were originally added to serve a protective function. Back in the day, rats used to be a pesky problem in people's homes, and paper was one of their favorite snacks. Margins were added as a safeguard, so that the rats would nibble on blank paper rather than taking a bite out of your important work. If you put your Chinese takeout on a plate when it arrives, you're doing more work than you should. Much like the paper condiment pots in fast food restaurants, your cardboard Chinese takeout box can be unfolded to create the perfect size plate for your food. The long neck on your soda bottle is designed like that to encourage you to hold it there. That way, the heat from your hand will only warm that top bit of the bottle instead of heating up your whole drink. Why does a lapel have a buttonhole with no matching button? Originally, coats and jackets did have a corresponding button so that the wearer could turn up the collar and fasten it around the neck to keep warm. Over time, people stopped doing this, and the button was removed. But many suit makers still keep the non-functioning traditional buttonhole. It's always hard to see your food in the microwave because of that pesky black grate on the window, but it's there to stop harmful microwaves escaping. Called the Faraday shield, it protects you as well as ensures that your food cooks properly. That random diamond on your backpack is called a lash tab or pig snout. It's there so you can thread cords through the holes to carry extra gear. Perfect for camping or long hikes. Golf balls are covered in dimples rather than being perfectly round, so that the ball can fly through the air more smoothly, decreasing the drag and allowing it to travel further and faster. Your makeup pads have 2 different sides for a reason. The bumpy side is used for applying makeup, while the flat side is for removing it. Donuts have holes so that the inside and outside cook evenly. Before the holes were added, the inside would often be greasy and doughy, while the outside was crisp. Your Apple laptop charger has tiny legs that can be folded out, and they're not there so your charger can stand up. These legs, when unfolded, allow you to wrap the cable around and then clamp it into place, securing it and preventing the cable getting tangled or damaged. Now take a look at a soda bottle, and you'll notice a disc inside the bottle cap. This helps seal in the liquid and the drink's fizz, stopping it from going flat. That hole in your hollow lollipop stick isn't to prevent choking, should it ever be swallowed. It's actually there to keep the candy in place. Excess candy flows into the hollow tube and the hole, which, when it hardens, keeps the pop in place. If it was a smooth stick, the candy would slide off easily. The zipper on leather biker jackets is often sewn diagonally. It's not just a fashion statement. Zips that are stitched vertically can bunch up if the wearer leans forward, but a diagonal zipper won't. That little triangle on your gas gauge is there to let you know which side of the car your gas cap is on. Now you'll never pull up to the wrong side of the pump in a rental car again. Vacuums come with so many attachments, but do any of us really know what that one with long bristles is for? It's for dusting and is perfect for cleaning framed art, blinds, and lampshades. Those tiny holes in the chocolate box tray actually serve a function. Push the hole near the candy and it'll pop straight out with you having to get your hands dirty. How thoughtful. Some skyscrapers have hollow floors that can contain nothing but an elevator. It's actually a way to get around height limits. Some skyscrapers are given a limit to the number of floors they can have. Because the hollow floors are empty, they add to the height of the building and make it look more impressive without increasing the number of floors and breaking the building contract. These hollow floors also help to prevent the spread of fires. Women's shirt buttons are traditionally on the left for a reason. Back in the day, it was a sign of wealth, as it signified that a chambermaid had dressed you, as having the buttons on the left made it easier for them to do up the shirt. If you grab a full juice box a bit too firmly, you can get sticky liquid all over the place. To avoid such situations, flip up the tabs on the sides of the juice box. You can use them to hold your drink. Some cars have a tiny coffee cup sign on the dashboard. It's the vehicle's anti-drowsiness mechanism. Some manufacturers equip their cars with a drowsiness detection system. It analyzes the speed, wheel angle, and lane deviations, and figures out if it's time for the driver to take a break. If it is, the vehicle makes several audio signals and the coffee cup sign starts to flash. Produce stickers on fruit and veggies you get at the supermarket are full of information. If there's a 4-digit code on the sticker, the product was grown conventionally. In most cases, it also means that pesticides were used in the process. If the product is organic, its sticker has 5 digits, and the first one is 9. Genetically modified products also have a 5-digit code, but the first number is 8. Sugar used to be sold in sugar loaves. Those were tall, hard cones. At those times, to get sugar ready for tea, people had to use special hammers to break a loaf apart first. After that, they cut the sugar into smaller and more nicely shaped lumps. Only in the middle of the 19th century, people invented the first press that cut sugar into cubes. This way, the product was easier to store and transport. A little hole in the end of your wrench can provide your screwdriver with some extra torque. Just slide the end with the hole over the screwdriver. You can also use this method when the angle is awkward. While driving, when it's already dark, you might get blinded by the headlights of the car moving behind yours. If you have a manual rearview mirror, find a tab at the bottom and flip it. The mirror has a reflective material behind its glass. By flipping the tab, you change the angle of this material, dimming the lights in the mirror. Most ice cream scoopers come in different colors. It has nothing to do with aesthetics. The color indicates the size of the scoop. This way, you can easily figure out how many scoops you'll need to fill 32 ounces. Wow, a 32-ounce sundae! Sign me up! Some caps on small tubes are hollow on top and have a little spike inside. Its purpose is to break the foil sticker sealing the tube. The neck fits right in this hole, and the spike is designed to break the seal. This way, you don't need to tear the tiny foil seal off with your fingers. The letter R in a circle on the product's packaging means that the trademark is officially registered. Once it's done, the trademark's owner has the right to place this letter on all their products. They can also sue anyone who tries to use their trademark. A gas pump usually has a small metal latch or hook on its handle. That's a trigger lock. You can use it to lock